So here's a rhetorical question, which I'm certain I know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. Have you ever asked yourself, what am I doing with my life? I certainly have. I ask myself that all the time. I still ask myself that. But a couple of years ago, I was asking it a lot. I was fresh out of college, and I'd been working a few kind of normal jobs. I've been a barista, I was a waiter, I was even a sofa salesman for a while. I was not a good sofa salesman. I wasn't a good waiter either. An existential crisis can strike at any age, but I think those years are particularly fertile ones for feeling this kind of dread. Not long after that, I got a job as a videographer, and this was great because I was working with a camera, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be a filmmaker. But, I didn't pick up a camera to take sexy product shots or shoot corporate promos. I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. And so this kept nagging at me, what am I doing with my life? And it was getting to a point where it felt like every Tuesday I was having this kind of existential crisis, this drama of being, where I felt like I was wasting my time and my talent. I love documentary film as a medium, and I wanted to be out in the world meeting people, telling their stories and sharing their insights. And so I would finish whatever videography job it was that I was doing, and it'd be fine, but I just feel stuck in this perfunctory funk, like it wasn't the kind of storytelling that I wanted to be doing. I think the essence of this particular kind of crisis is being fine but unfulfilled. It's a crisis of being. It's saying that who I imagine I am or who I aspire to be and who I actually am are not the same person. They're not in harmony. And so you can get stuck in this negative spiral. I don't know how you fix that other than by forcing purpose on yourself, by giving yourself some kind of mission to complete. I think although this is an internal crisis, it's an external goal that can pull you out of it. So to get out of the funk, I set myself a goal: make one documentary film by the end of the year. I wanted to prove that I could do it, but more importantly, that I loved to do it. I had to know, did I really want to be a documentary filmmaker? Up until that point, it was just something I was fantasizing about, that this is the thing that would be fulfilling to me. But there's no way of knowing unless you actually do it. In order to arrive at my goal, I tried to break down what it was that I wanted. Now, obviously your goal might be different, but I'm a big fan of being practical. And so I try and ask, what can I do today that will move me forward? And here's, kind of how I think about it. What do I want? It's to have a long career as a filmmaker, but that's not something that I can do overnight. So what I can do today has to be something simple, affordable, and achievable. So would I like to make a Hollywood film? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not something simple, it's not achievable, and it's not affordable for me on my own. So I'm just going to park that ambition. There's no point setting a goal that's too ambitious because, you just fail and then you're back into existential crisis mode. So can I make one documentary? Yeah, that's something I think I can do. And do I like to make documentary? Well, I think so. And, for the reasons I've said, but I want to feel connected to the world. I want to feel like I can get outside of my own little bubble. And documentary is a great way to meet new and interesting people that you'd otherwise not have any real connection with. So that was an important part of it for me. And then I had to think in terms of, was the documentary something that I could do myself? Could I afford to do it myself because I was going to self-finance it? So I had to pick a story that was simple and contained. And so it got me thinking in terms of, are there people that I can interview? Are there connections I have through friends or family? Are there causes that I'm interested in? What can I go out and find that I can start filming right away? Having said all of that, in the end I went to Greece and I tried to make 4 documentaries. So it was neither simple nor contained, but the process of doing that addressed a lot of the core issues that I was feeling that had driven this documentary project in the first place. So I set myself that goal in March, and by September I was in Greece filming. So that's 7 months of just pure focus on this project. And it's 7 months of not worrying about what am I doing with my life. And it's also the time when this existential crisis, this internal conflict shifted outside of myself, and it suddenly became something more manageable. It was a series of practical problems of just how do I make these films happen. So over the next series of videos, I'm going to break down how I found my documentary film idea, and then how I developed a plan by researching the subject and finding sources, and finally what it was like to film in another country. And then I'll also try and do something on why all this is important. This video is really to explain why I set myself the challenge of going to another country and filming filming 4 documentaries. And if you're feeling lost, why I think you should do something like this too. This project, these documentaries, went a long way to solving that particular existential crisis because they got me out of my head. They gave me a tangible goal and something fulfilling to pursue. The fulfilling part of this equation is really difficult to figure out, and I think a lot of us struggle with finding work that is fulfilling. And so I'm tempted to say don't worry about it, at least don't worry about it directly. Will the goal that you've set yourself be satisfying to work on? Do you want to chip away at it every day? I don't think I knew it at the time, but the everyday work of trying to make those films a reality, the day-to-day practical stuff, was exactly the kind of work that I needed to be doing. Figuring out how to make these films was a meaningful challenge, but I don't think I could have predicted the ways in which the experience would have been meaningful. And I don't think it's worth trying. I don't think I should have gone into the experience asking for meaning. Instead, I think it's better to ask, can you complete this challenge? And do you want to complete the challenge? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then just go for it, just try. It was the challenge of making the documentary that gave it meaning. It was a difficult thing to do. It was going out into the world, it was meeting people, it was hearing their stories, it was learning about myself, learning about the world. That's what was fulfilling, and that I think is worthwhile in doing. At some point, you will inevitably ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? But I don't know that it's a question to fear. It's a question that arises out of this imbalance between who you are and who you aspire to be. There's an undeniable, unavoidable, inescapable element of exploration in all of this. Embrace that. If you want meaning, if you want purpose, if you want fulfillment, whatever it is, it happens in the space between where you are and where you imagine you want to be.